Hey guys, welcome to another movie review. Today I'm talking about the new film, The Black Phone. This is a film that was based off a short story that writer Joe Hill wrote. Joe Hill is also the son of Stephen King in real life. So I've always been kind of intrigued as to, because I know Joe Hill's, another story of his that did get turned into a film that was just really weird was one called Horns with Daniel Radcliffe. I remember that came out years ago. It was just kind of weird and tried watching it, I think, on FX years back, and it was just kind of weird. So I was always kind of interested in seeing if Stephen King's son was going to have another story that was going to be turned into a film and things like that. And surely enough, that happened with The Black Phone. Um, but in this movie, you guys, if you don't know what The Black Phone is about, basically there is a series of kidnappings that happened in this neighborhood in Denver, Colorado in the late 1970s. And this is all fictional. It's all a fictional short story that this is based on. Denver, Colorado in the late 70s, and there is what is believed to be one person that's doing all this kidnapping called the Grabber. And basically, these kids keep going missing. There's no trace left at all as to where they might have gone. People are putting flyers all over town when their kid goes missing, and obviously nobody can find them. But the story really starts to kind of take flight when this young boy that the film focuses on gets kidnapped himself by the Grabber. And basically, it's about him trying to escape this guy's basement that he has him locked in. The film never really explores why this guy kidnaps kids and stuff, but he's just a really weird, clearly evil person that is just doing these to these kids in this Denver, Colorado neighborhood. And what's going to be helpful to this kid that didn't help the other kids in the past from the other victims of the Grabber was there's this black phone in the basement. It's a kind of this black landline phone, and it rings every once in a while. And every once in a while, the person on the other line is basically a ghost of the victims past of the Grabber victims, and basically they can help out this new kid that the film focuses on better his chances of escaping. They tell him things that worked for them, that didn't work for them, things not to do, things that irritate the Grabber, things that didn't work with their escape. So basically, over the course of this film, this young boy has to figure out how to escape the Grabber's clutches, paying close attention to the other previous victims in the past with things that worked for them and things that didn't work for them, and do everything that he can to be the first and only kid to escape the Grabber's clutches. But overall, guys, I really enjoyed The Black Phone a lot, even though it's a very dark subject matter, though I'm sure there's scenarios in real life where there's been terrible people that have committed things like this that the Grabber's done in this movie. I think what I enjoyed the most about The Black Phone and what made me impressed so much about The Black Phone is just how fresh and unique everything felt. It felt like it was told with a unique director's voice. There's things I'll talk about in my positives that really kind of bring the film to life as far as people having dreams, people really kind of putting the film in the perspective of this kid, and how the film kind of visually depicts these previous victims telling him things to do and things not to do in this basement. How all that is depicted is very unique in this movie, and I think that's ultimately why I enjoyed The Black Phone as much as it was. Is it took something that could be really traditional, kind of boring on the page, but do something really unique with it and just go full on different, full on Joe Hill's vision of the original short story while giving Scott Derrickson some creative freedom with his horror background to do something unique with the material too. And I think The Black Phone succeeds on all those levels. So for my positives and negatives of The Black Phone, first and foremost, like I just mentioned, everything feels fresh and unique in this movie. Everything that would normally feel traditional in any other film is told in a fresh, unique perspective. There's these things called snuff film elements that Scott Derrickson is known for, specifically when he did Sinister, of old, grainy film footage that depicts something that you really couldn't capture with a regular film camera, because with snuff film, you could depict something old and grainy that felt like it's been sitting around for a while somewhere. And how this film decides to depict that is this young girl has these bad dreams every once in a while. And what's unique about her bad dreams is a lot of the settings that happen in her dreams happen to be real places within Denver, Colorado. So she could potentially find the grabber's house. She could potentially find out where previous victims were in her dreams, that what things they were doing before the grabber got a hold of them. And so I think that's just a unique way to tell the story rather than just visually tell us in a flashback or visually backtrack as to far as somebody in the story that might have last seen that person before they went missing. It just feels very unique and fresh. It just feels very, everything of how the film is depicted feels unique and different. That's just something I really admire about this film. Is it never tries to go just the generic route. It really tries to keep everything as fresh as possible over the course of the movie. And one thing I will say, and I think I've seen a lot of critics online say this too, this really is Scott Derrickson's best film. I really enjoyed a lot of his work so far, specifically Sinister, specifically his first Doctor Strange movie. I would even say doing this film was the smarter choice, doing instead of Doctor Strange 2. And don't get me wrong, I like Doctor Strange 2. I didn't review it on my channel, unfortunately, because I had a lot of things going on at the time. But I think this was the smarter film for him to take on. I think this film really kind of lets him have his voice and lets him do something unique with the story. It just really brought out, he took everything in his previous work and made it as best as possible here. And I think that really paid off. Take all the things that worked in your previous films, bring it to a new project, really bring it full force. And I think it paid off for Scott Derrickson. So congrats to him. I also thought the lead boy and his sister were two very strong and well-written characters in this film. This lead boy does a lot of things that you would want him to do in this basement as far as escaping, using every possible resource that he can, using every piece of advice that he can from the ghosts of victims past on the phone, and the sister having this dreaming ability where some of the things she dreams about are things that are actually happening in her neighborhood, and how the police and these detectives are trying to use that to the best of their ability, kind of writing down everything that she's seeing, every kind of address that she saw, every kind of person she might have seen in that dream. So just as far as writing good characters go, this lead character needs some water, and his sister character, they're both really well written, well realized, and they really help the script come to full life as far as going from script to screen goes. I also thought Ethan Hawke as the grabber was just really unique and different. And what I like about his character too is kind of like Michael Myers, kind of like Jason Voorhees. You might know maybe a little bit about them. There's something about them that obviously is off. But what made kind of like the original Michael Myers and the original Halloween, you really don't know his motivation, but there's just enough creepy things and odd things about his character and personality that make him stand out as a villain. He's not just kind of this evil guy doing evil things. There really is kind of this weird psychic state of mind that they have that really makes them evil but makes them scary at the same time, while also kind of always making you guessing as to what their motivation is. And I like that about him. I like how they didn't overly explain the grabber's motivation for doing all this stuff, how he'll sometimes leave the door unlocked in the basement, how he'll bring you breakfast and drinks but really won't do anything else as far as making sure you survive, kind of being in his clutches. So I thought it was a very unique performance. I think Ethan Hawke disappeared in the role. I really was watching this character and not Ethan Hawke just because he disappeared into the role that well, I think. I really liked what he did with his performance in this movie. It was extremely well done. And like I brought up before, the snuff film elements are really well done here. They really bring something to the film. They really bring a lot of things to the dream sequences of the film when the little girl is dreaming and trying to find addresses and places that people have been to. I thought it was just a very successful film element, and I really hats off to Scott Derrickson for doing something completely unique with his movie. I also like the idea of ghosts of the victim's past, of this really terrible person, giving somebody who hasn't been killed yet in this scenario, giving them advice to make sure that they can come out of the situation alive. I thought that aspect of the story was really unique. Another unique thing about the ghosts, too, is sometimes they don't remember their name, but they feel like they remember parts of their past, which was kind of unique to me. They remember how the grabber took them out, but as far as anything beyond that and things that happened in their past, it's very kind of all over the place. Some of the things they remember in their afterlife stay with them, some of them don't. And like I said, it's just the idea too that they forget their name was also kind of unique to me too. So really cool, unique way to tell the story rather than just a voice on the phone, having an actual ghost in the room, expressing their emotion, expressing how they feel about something. I thought was a very unique way to depict that in a film like this. Also, even though this is Joe Hill and not Stephen King, there's a lot of moments here that I feel are kind of small nods to his dad's work, whether it's black balloons that look like something Pennywise would have, or um, something like uh, just small stuff like that. Just small stuff like um, I don't know, like there was a dog that kind of reminded me of Cujo at one point in the movie. So there's really small nods. They're not full on Stephen King references, but there's just enough of his dad's legacy and work that are kind of recognized throughout the movie that you really can't help but that feels like Joe Hill's way of acknowledging that that's his father. So I thought those were kind of small little unique nods that Joe Hill did throughout the story, and that the screenplay writers like Scott Derrickson and C. Robert Cargill did over the course of the story too. As far as negatives for the movie go, there was a father character that was really just kind of a mean drunk throughout the movie. And I feel like he's just kind of written to be the mean drunk and really nothing more. There's kind of a small revelation or resolution to him, I guess, near the end of the story, I guess you could say. But to me personally, it just felt like he was written to be the mean drunk to be the mean drunk. He's just such a terrible person throughout the movie that when they do try to find small moments of him helping his kids or him coming to a revelation about something, I just didn't care about the character because he is so terribly written throughout earlier on in the movie. And not so much that he's terribly written, but there's just so many unlikable qualities to his character that he just kind of comes off as the mean drunk and nothing more. So I thought that aspect of the film was a little disappointing. I also thought some of the school bully characters were just kind of generic. They were just kind of your typical school bullies that get in a fight for no reason. They just kind of get fist fights and wait till the first person has a nosebleed, and that's really kind of all there is to them. So I thought some of the school bullies were a little generically written throughout the movie. I also will say too, if you're really overly squeamish on rated R thriller movies like this is not the place to start. There is a lot of imagery of kids getting hurt and people getting hurt. So if R-rated thriller movies are not your thing, The Black Phone is not the place to start. So just forewarning going in, there is some pretty dark imagery in this movie. But overall, I'm going to give The Black Phone a 9 out of 10. There's some really wonderfully done things in this movie. I think this is Scott Derrickson's best film to date. And yes, I am a fan of Sinister and Doctor Strange. Just the way the film is told and depicted, I thought was extremely unique and well done. Like I said, a couple of small nitpicks that I mentioned in my negatives, but for the most part, I am going to give the film a 9 out of 10. It's a wonderful film, one of 2022's best films so far, I think. I'll probably for sure put this in my top 10 somewhere at the end of the year. So 9 out of 10, I highly recommend seeing The Black Phone. It's totally worth your time and money. It's a wonderfully made movie.